What's going on, everyone? Andy and Nathan from WagerTalk.com going over UFC Fight Night Aspinall versus Tybura coming off of the Holly Holm Myra Bueno Silva night. Nathan, I think our best call from last video was clearly Munoz getting the better of Carl Deaton. We beat the line by a lot. Hopefully, we can find another gimme with that one. Any takeaways from? We're recording this on Sunday. Any big takeaways from last night's event, or are you ready to forget that one?
I mean, it was fun. Well, I think the Chelsea Chandler. There's some memes going around right now for good reason. The running to the opposite end of the cage was something exciting and never seen before. So that was fun. There were some good fights though. It wasn't as bad as a card in some areas that a lot of people thought it would be. So we did well in some certain areas.
Yeah, it was a really good bettable card. So hopefully we can find some more angles. Let's get into the fights. All of our plays can be found at wagertalk.com. All of our official plays coming off a really nice week. We also do other sports. The Open Championship is this week. I specialize in that. Coming off a really nice lacrosse weekend. And MLB, you name it. We've got some profits for you. So, all right, here we go. We are going to start with Jafel, Filho, and Daniel Barez. And I like this fight. I think it's pretty good. I think it should be pretty entertaining. It's a really good one. I think I butchered the guys' names out. Jafel, Filho, and Daniel Barez. What do you like in this one?
I think it's honestly, I do think it's a coin flip fight. I really like Barez. I mean, I know that he lost in the Contender Series to who was it? It was a Henderson. Hernandez, sorry. Lost at Hernandez, but did well to avoid the submissions, has solid knees in the clinch, loves to counter strike. Ever since losing his Dana White contendership bout, he's gone on a 4-fight win streak, albeit it is against cans. But, I do like his all-around. I think he's a well-rounded fighter is what I'm trying to say. The only problem being is that Filho is a monster on the ground. I think if Barez is able to keep this standing, I think he does have a really good chance of probably eking out the decision. Filho, you saw him in his last fight where he does like to stay on the ground and kind of like do the boot scoot and try to get somebody into his game. If he gets him on the ground, then it's a different world. Like his submissions are something to behold. On the feet, he's not that well-rounded. He's not that polished. So for me, it's a pretty close fight. I think I give the edge to Filho just because he's had the experience. He's also fought in the UK before when he fought against, I'm having a brain fart here. Muhammad.
His last fight against Makhachev, where he injured Makhachev.
Yeah, he injured him. And so and so that's why Makhachev's out for this extended period of time because of that knee bar, I think, that he had him in. So yeah, I definitely lean Filho if it's going to stay, if it gets on the ground. If Barez is able to stuff the takedowns and keep it on the feet, I think he's going to edge out with the striking. I think he does have the advantage there. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I think it'll be a fun fight for sure. I don't think it probably goes the distance, but
yeah, I find this one pretty unbettable because it is a coin flip. His performance against Makhachev was really good. I will say Makhachev. The way Makhachev fights, I mean, he's just begging to get beat. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't. And he was really, really close, and he ended up taking a pretty nasty injury there. So I'm with you that Barez should have the advantage on the feet. And that loss to Carlos Hernandez does not look bad at all. Like Carlos Hernandez has won 2 UFC fights. He dropped one to Nascimento, but no shame in losing to Carlos Hernandez at that level. So yeah, if it gets on the ground, it's Filho all day. If it stays on the feet, I think it's Barez all day, but I'm not really sure who ends up kind of winning that battle. I also think it could go the distance if Filho gets it on the ground and can't submit, but it could get over in the first round if Barez lands some of those big power shots. So I can't take an over. I can't take an under. I think it's just a really, really good matchmaking fight. I think it's going to be entertaining, but betting purposes, I really can't get anywhere close to anything in this fight. So
agreed.
Up next, Bruna, Brazil, Shauna, Bannon. You have a very strong opinion on this fight, so I'll let you go first. What do you like in this one?
I like Bannon. I think that Bannon is going to have both the striking as well as the wrestling grappling advantage here. She comes from a kickboxing background. You wouldn't know it based upon her last few fights where she's just kind of really jumped into the deep end in regards to the wrestling and the grappling. I mean, she likes to get up against the cage. She likes to take it the trips to the ground. And once she gets her on the ground, she's just trying to maul her opponent or fish to the submission. If you go back far enough into her fights, you will see that she, does have, striking prowess coming from that kickboxing background, the side kicks. She'll throw like several kicks to the head. She'll throw a one kick and then another kick and then another without even putting her foot down, kind of like a taekwondo triple kick sort of thing. It's not the best, it's not the most polished, but she does have it there. So if people are thinking that she's just a one-dimensional kind of wrestler grappler, you'd be surprised. Now, on the other hand, the Bruna Brazil side, I think that she's not UFC caliber, in my opinion. The fight, who was it? I can't remember her name, who she fought against on the Contender Series. Now, that was a KO. And like her getting the win the way that she did, and then coming into the UFC and then showing her lack of not liking to get struck. She's going to be the bigger fighter, but she just was. It was against Gomez, right?
Yeah, when Gomez, knocked her out, and then Gomez comes out and knocks out Waragi. So I think that may be throwing people off the scent. It's like, oh man, she got knocked out by a killer, by a monster. Maybe she did.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the case, is that people being like, oh, like Gomez is, this world beater, so you can't really give anything to that. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, you saw some of the, I'm still, not too sold on Gomez, even though she is doing really, really well. But I just think that here, Bannon's going to be able to get the fight to the ground, and it's just going to be a different world. Bruna Brazil is going to be out of her element, and she's going to lose 2 straight in a row.
Yeah, she got the head kick win against Marc, who just wasn't that good. Like, did what she had to do, won the fight, but yeah, it wasn't very polished. So it was an impressive KO, but I'm with you. Bruna Brazil, I don't know what she does awesome. Like when you say, oh, Bruna Brazil, like what does she do? You're like, oh, I don't really know. But with Bannon, I can see the path to victory, which is, you're right, getting her opponents on the ground. Last 3 wins have come by decision, but it's been, I don't want to say lay and pray because she's somewhat active on the ground, but she does a good job of keeping her opponents down on the ground. I'm not really sure if Brazil is going to be able to get from it. So I absolutely could see us firing away on Bannon because she's right around even or plus money right now. I think that's a little mistake in the market.
I think so too.
Yeah. So, and it is over there. It's across the pond. So obviously they're going to give these, UK and Irish fighters a good opportunity to win. I think this is one where plus money seems like a pretty generous price for someone like Bannon. I will say it could be a great live betting opportunity. Bannon gets Brazil down in the first round, and you're like, oh boy, Brazil's done. Brazil can't get up from this. So moving on, Chris Duncan, Yanal, Ashmouz, and you have another strong opinion about this one. Who do you like in this one?
I like Yanal Ashmouz. I don't know if Chris Duncan's really got it. I mean, he fought twice on Dana White's Contender Series, then won a split decision against Omar Morales. Omar Morales, I mean, where he's at in his career in the UFC.
1-4.
Exactly. It's not, so it's not that great of a showing to go the distance against Omar Morales when you're this, touted kind of like new prospect. He does have a powerful right hand. He's got strong calf kicks. He likes to grind it out with wrestling up against the cage. He's got pretty solid all around striking, just not a lot of volume, and he doesn't like to throw combos. So is going to do, well against fighters with bad takedown or wrestling defense, but I don't think that's Yanal. Yanal got the huge upset in his short notice fight against Sam Patterson, where he slept in the first 15 seconds. If you go back and watch his previous fights, he is a strong wrestler. He's got big power in his hands, power hooks, good ground and pound. I just think that Yanal's got great cardio, and he's going to be the fighter, in my opinion, pretty much everywhere, except for like he's going to have a slight height disadvantage. And I think it's going to be like a 3 or 2.5 inch reach disadvantage. But in my opinion, I think this is Yanal's fight to lose. I think that he goes in there, stuffs the takedowns, shows the power to Chris Duncan, and it probably puts him out of there. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly didn't get bothered by the height and reach of Sam Patterson.
Yeah, right.
That knockout is still one of the crazier knockouts we've seen in recent. Like he catches a little kick from Sam Patterson, hits him once, and then as Patterson is like falling backwards, it was sick. It was
Yeah. It was like,
absolutely sick. And then jumps on top of him. Yeah, I'm with you. Chris Duncan's a plotter. He's really tough. I always kind of, if that's the first word to describe a fighter, I'm always a little cautious about that. It's like, well, okay, you're tough. That means you can take a punch, which he can. He likes his kicks to the legs and to the body. He likes to. He does like to set up for shoots and takedowns, but they're not that crisp. A lot of times they end up against the fence where he's kind of not really doing anything. That fight against Omar Morales was just not that impressive to me. Okay, he showed he had cardio. He showed he had some offense and showed he had some defense to get the best of Morales, but everyone's been getting the best of Morales recently. So I'm with you. I like if you're looking at this fight and you say, well, who's got the much higher upside? It's Yanal, and it's not even close. Yanal can finish if he wants anywhere, and I'm just not really sure if Duncan is that guy where he can go out and finish. Someone like Yanal. I didn't think his opponent on his contender series fight was pretty crazy. Kudos for him to get in the finish, but this is UFC. It's a big step up, and yeah. I just don't like. I don't want to take any overs or unders either because Duncan. Yanal can hit like a truck, but Duncan's tough. He can take a punch. So if you're betting anything, I'm with you. I think it's Yanal, and we're getting great odds, -105.
Yeah,
so
that is.
A lot of these fights are pretty bettable from the odds. So if you like a side, you're going to be getting pretty good odds. So I'm in agreement. I think we're aligned with Yanal. Ketlen, Vieira, Pannie, Kianzad. I just talk about an anchor in this to start round 2 parlays.
Right.
I really, sure. I'll go first. I have nothing to say other than just take the over. Either one could win. I guess I'm going to lean Vieira. Maybe she has the stronger strikes, which could do more damage to the judges, but I'm certainly not paying -200 in this fight. So Kianzad 8 straight fights go to decision. 19 of her 22 fights have gone the distance. Vieira's had 16 fights with 13 of them going the distance, including her last 5. Overs are the only way, in my opinion, that you could play this fight. But I will say, pretty damn good play. Pretty good parlay piece to take some kind of over in this fight. But for the side, complete pass, and I'm not going to be very excited watching this fight.
I'm with you 100%. This is I lean I leave the Kianzad side of things, and the reason for that is just because I know she's coming back off an ACL injury that she sustained, but I think that she's been active in regards to doing UFC commentary for some of the regional scenes. So I always like that when you've got somebody that's able to watch other fighters and has to watch tape. And I think that she's got a higher fight IQ than some people might expect. Where I think the fight is going to take place is going to be up against the cage. And I think that she's going to show the better. She's going to be just as big and tall as Ketlen Vieira, who typically has that size advantage. Ketlen Vieira does have power in her hands. I think she lost that with the Holly Holm fight, which I think we both did. But I think it was just the power that she was able to, when they were striking, she was able to land. I think that's the reason they went with that decision, but she just shows way too low a volume for me to kind of get behind, especially with someone like Kianzad, who I think is going to have that more volume, especially up against the cage and where she's able to land the elbows and land the knees and like really drain away some of that time. So give me Kianzad. I just think that, like you said, the only way to really play this is going to be the fight starts round 2 or take the overs, which is a pretty safe bet that's going to happen because it is what it is.
Bryan Barberena and Makhmud Muradov. I'm excited because you know me, Nathan. I love fading me some Bryan Barberena.
Chuck Liddell light.
You like Muradov in this one. I just like the thought of fading Bryan Barberena. It's very obvious the path to victory with Bryan Barberena is just get him on the ground and the fight is kind of over.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is I don't know if Muradov is going to do that. His last few fights, man, he just like I went back and looked. I know he lost to Caio Baralo, which now that doesn't look bad at all. I mean, Baralo just keeps getting better and better. That guy's a monster. Gerald Mearshart, I know he's winning. Mearshart pulls out the sub. Why? Because it's Gerald Mearshart.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I worry that Muradov is going to get into the big slugfest, and that's the only way that he gives Bryan Barberena a chance is to stand there and bang. Even if he does, I'm not really sure Barberena can take him. It's minus 300, so it's a really good parlay piece. If you told me that Muradov was going to even try wrestling or takedowns, I would be like slam dunk, lock. Let's take it in. I just if I'm betting on this fight, that's what I'm betting on is that he does that. You think he does do that, right?
I think that he does that. I think that Muradov has the advantage in all the areas. Also, Barberena is coming up to the 185 weight class, where he's going to be the shorter fighter.
Up, man, for Bryan Barberena. Man, that's
you know,
a big step up.
It is, and he is like Chuck Liddell light. He has that stance. He likes to brawl. He spams the low calf kicks. But Muradov, he uses his length very well to stay outside of his opponents, constantly moving side to side, which I think is good. He also showed wrinkles in his game, especially against Baralo fight, in which he did implement wrestling. And I feel like he had a chance to win that fight because he was able to get reversals even when Baralo had him down, except for that third round where he got him down and then Baralo was able to get the reversal of his own and then just stay on top for the rest of that fight. But on the feet, it was relatively close. I think he was winning it there. It was just the ground game. But to see that he was able to shoot and to be able to get his own takedowns against Baralo was like, what the hell? Like, he definitely took the time off to get better. I guess also if you're doing some social media stalking, just found out that him and his girlfriend or wife, they are pregnant, they are expecting. So that's got to be some sort of motivation in the gym to get that paycheck because baby's coming.
Yeah.
Planned or unplanned. So, wife's like, you got to get that money, honey. So I think that he's definitely going to go out there and put on a show. I feel like he does implement the wrestling game plan, especially after having the setback against Gerald Mearshart and then, against Baralo. It's just like if he wants to succeed in this division, he's going to have to improve. That's the area in which he needs to improve. Showed some of those improvements against Baralo. And I think he takes those improvements to Barberena and gets the win.
Yeah, I mean he's coming off 2 losses in a row, so you're right. He can't be screwing around here. It's a good point about him. Him and his wife, being pregnant and having a baby. It's kind of like, all right, you lost 2 in a row. You have to win this one. What's the path of least resistance? Go ahead and try and take Barberena down. It won't be difficult. Trust me.
Yeah.
Trust me. I'm really surprised that Barberena. I mean, Bryan Barberena is going to have a height disadvantage, a reach disadvantage, and Muradov looks pretty big, man. I mean, he's got a big frame. So, I think your confidence is gonna wear off on me a little bit. I think I'm with you, and I think Muradov ends up making our card. We'll have to put him with something else, but there's definitely plenty to put him with on this card. So, Mick Parkin, Michael. What are we going with, Mick or Michael? Depends.
I think it's Mick now. I think they just made it Mick. It sounds more British, so they just made him. They just made him Mick Parkin instead of Michael. I don't know.
Okay, well, Jamal Pogues, Mick Parkin. Okay, I will go first because I think you've got some counters for me. I think it's Pogues and it's Pogues all day. Mick Parkin, he's undefeated, 6-0. Nothing to be ashamed of. The combined records of his opponents is 23 and 46.
True.
So
True.
You could only fight who they put in front of you. So, but I mean, 1-10, whatever. 2-17, 2-3, 11-7, 6-9. He fights Eduardo on Contender Series. I believe Parkin was the underdog, and for the fight only lasted a couple minutes. Why? Because Eduardo just ended up laying down in the fetal position. I don't know if it was an extreme adrenaline dump or if his cardio literally only lasts 2 minutes, but he actually was taking Parkin down. Like Parkin was actually losing the first couple minutes, and then all of a sudden Eduardo was just done. And Parkin jumps on and gets the rear naked. And I know everyone's, oh, Parkin, oh my gosh, came from behind. I think I think if he had fought anybody with any type of cardio, I think he loses, and I don't think it's that close. So I like Pogues a lot in this one because I know in his UFC debut he beat Josh Parisian. Okay,
Mhm.
not the greatest UFC fighter, but he is a UFC fighter. And it went the distance. And I loved that in his UFC debut, he showed the cardio as big as a guy as he is to go the distance. I think that's going to make like the biggest difference in this fight. He can go all 3 rounds. I think he's going to push Parkin up against the fence. I think he's just kind of got him covered a little bit everywhere. Parkin has gone out of the first round once. And
Mhm.
if you watch that fight, Parkin was dead to the world, like when he got the finish. So I think Pogues. I like that Pogues has fought. What is he? 10-3. So he's fought 13 fights, at 7 more than Parkin, and he's
Yeah.
fought he fought okay guys. He lost to the guy in LFA, but that guy's got a good record. I thought his contender series fight was pretty good, and then getting that first UFC fight out of the way with getting the win over Parisian, which I thought he dominated. I didn't think he left much. I didn't think it was tough to determine that he won. So his fights could be boring, but I just think Parkin is not on the level of Pogues. I think Pogues is going to be one of these guys that just randomly shows up on cards, and you're like, fucking Jamal, we got another Jamal Pogues fight, and then he goes out there
Mhm.
and he wins a boring fight by decision because he's strong and he's got cardio and he's just tough to beat. I'm not really sure where Parkin is going to beat him at because if it goes a decision, I don't think it's going to be Parkin because I think Pogues has him just about everywhere. What do you think?
I'm with it's for me. It's a closer fight. It's a 50-50, in my opinion, a 50-50 fight in the heavyweight division, which always like makes me a little iffy because they do have KO power. They you never know if one's going to gas and then somebody else gets submitted or it can go the distance. The reason I say that is just because the thing that I like about Parkin is the time that he took off from his Dana White Contender Series victory to improve and to get better. If you watch him on his Instagram, you see what he's been doing in his training with Aspinall and Paul Craig. He looks in shape. He looks like he's filled out with nothing but solid muscle. I think he's going to have a massive size advantage against Pogues, who typically, or before he went to heavyweight, fought at light heavyweight. So he is a smaller of the heavyweights. It's like a Cyril Gahn, like moving. He's very fast. I think he's got great wrestling. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He's got a solid jab. The only problem is that he doesn't really throw in combos. I think Mick has got just as good as a jab as Jamal Pogues does, and he's very patient, and he likes to just kind of take his time. He hasn't really necessarily had to go to the second round because of the opponents that he's fought, and especially the Dana White Contender Series fight where that was just
Hilarious.
crazy. Like that was just like gets the guy on the ground, gets his back, gets the rear
Literally
naked.
laid down in the
Like,
fetal. He literally laid in the fetal position.
yeah, that was, I just, it's one of those things where you don't know who you're going to get. They would like to push this guy because it is in the UK. Jamal Pogues has never, ever left the United States. And so he's going to be, traveling across seas with a different time zone and new area. I do think that plays some sort of mental game with him. I like to see it in the weigh-ins. I would like to see just like kind of like the size difference, because I do feel that Mick's going to have a better gas tank than some people might think, and that his patience, it could end up being a totally boring,
Oh, it will be.
like just
Oh,
like
it
who's
absolutely
got the
will
better
be.
jab? Who's got the better jab? All right, who's got the and then I think Pogues does have the wrestling. I think the grappling and it might be even. I mean, we don't know a lot about Parkin's grappling other than the submission that he got. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I just think it's a much more closer fight than some people might think. I mean, the odds have it, like if you go to Tapology, 71% are picking Parkin to win. I think
It's
Parkin
ridiculous.
opened. I know
It's
that is,
ridiculous.
it is true. And
Insanity.
I mean,
In my
Parkin opened. Well, yeah, he opened at a plus 188. It's been, all the way down to plus 120. Um, but Yeah.
I understand like getting in better shape and everything, but sometimes adding muscle, man, makes cardio even worse. And I'm just not
Mhm.
sure. Like, okay, he's improved his cardio. What can he get halfway through the fight now? Because I'm telling you, if you go back and watch that fight, the one fight that lasted in the second round, his opponent was dead, and so is he. So I
Mhm.
know he's had more time to get ready. I just don't know how I just don't know how more improved he can be. And I just have the memories of him getting taken down and ragdolled by Eduardo on Contender Series until Eduardo
Oh,
fell apart.
one
Yes.
more thing, I totally forgot to mention is that Pogues broke his hand in the second round of his fight against
Hmm.
Josh Parisian, and that's the only problem is that it was only 3 months ago. So I wonder if that plays an issue again to where if he goes out there and they start cracking, and that's the reason why he probably would have looked a lot. The more I think about it, the more I do lean to Pogues because of that. If he's able to, if his hand is 100%, then I think we'll see a different version of Pogues. The fact that he wasn't able to keep Parisian down in the later half of the second and the third round, even though he was like doing the takedowns, is because his hand was broken. He wasn't able to get the grips
Yeah.
to keep Parisian down. So if his hand's 100%, then yes, then Pogues is a much better, like favorite. But if he goes in there and he didn't get enough time and ends up like cracking and hurting his hand again, then it could be a totally different story. So that was one of the issue things that I had. But
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you'd hope. Okay, he takes a UFC fight. You'd hope the doctors and trainers and him and everybody, are not putting him in harm's way. So, I'm trying to kind of give you some of my confidence about this fight, the way you gave me the
that's
confidence
true.
on
I get
Muradov,
it.
because I'm not impressed with
I'm
Parkin. 23
I'm
and 46, Nathan.
I'm getting
That's
there.
a
No,
23 and
I
46.
I think I like the potential of Parkin, and that's why I'm having, but you're right. It's kind of like, it's almost like the Aspinall thing, like training with him. I knew Aspinall coming in was going to be something, and we'll get to him later on. And if he's anything, if he's able to take any sort of, glean any sort of skill set or mentality or fight IQ that Aspinall, carries with him, I think that'll take him places in the division. And it's probably not the time to do it though. I think that Pogues definitely has him beat in most if not all the areas that
Yeah,
matter.
I don't take lightly that he trains with, awesome guy. Parkin even said it. He was like, "Hey, I train with, I don't know. I was rolling my eyes. Oh no, I train with these good guys. Oh really? Did they show you how to choke the guy out when the guy was was exhausted after 2 minutes? Was that
Yeah,
their
that's the
big
fastest
training?
adrenaline dump I've ever seen. It was just like
This
he
is
just started
crazy.
tired. He was like,
Yeah,
"Ah,
he
ah,
started.
ah." Yeah,
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'm on Pogues. Nathan's a little bit more cautious. I feel perfectly fine with that one. This one, I don't think we're gonna have to convince each other too much about about one side. Marc Diakese and Joel Alvarez. Nathan, Marc Diakese, top three, lack of fight IQ in UFC. Would you put him
my
there?
God. Yeah, that was
We're talking
hair
about the fight against Michael
Michael
Johnson.
Johnson. That was hair pulling. Like the guy was, I mean, started out as a kickboxer, strong striking, great kicks, good power. Then all of a sudden falls in love with wrestling, becomes a wet blanket. Like just, they might have been boring fights, but was just
But he
dominating.
won.
Just dominate, tearing down. And we're like, oh, that's all he's going to do against Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson's this 40-year-old, like yeah, he's got experience, but Marc Diakese's grappling's next level. What's he decided to do? I want to stand and bang. I want to stand and bang with the vet. And then what's going to happen? I'm going to get tired. And then when I am try to actually, come back to my senses and grapple, it's too little too late. I get stuffed. I get like, it was just so, you can't, whenever there's a situation like that with fight IQ, like it really turns me off from the fighter. Like
I'm
something
with
like
you.
that with such an easy path to victory, just thrown out the window. It's hard to get my money moving forward. And then of course we got, Yoel Alvarez, who is just I mean, next level striker, submission artist, tall, long for the division, great knees up the middle, nasty elbows from everywhere. I mean, not just up against the cage. I mean, he throws them in the middle of the ring, like just uses them like he would a jab. It's pretty impressive. His was it Arman Sarukian. That was just
That was
it's Arman
Sarukian's best
Sarukian.
performance, man.
Yeah,
That
I
was
mean, the way that he put him on the ground, and that was the only thing that Alvarez kind of has against him is that he will take submission over position, right? Like he's so good off his back and catching people when they try to take him to the ground. That was somebody like Arman. It was just he was too strong on top for him to really do anything. And then those elbows, one that cracked and like sliced up, he
Cut
just
him wide
wasn't the
open.
same. Like
Yeah.
I think he was concussed or something from that. But I think that he's taken the right time off to make the improvements. To I guess probably to change up his game plan and be like, all right, maybe I do a little more wrestling. Maybe it's not just going to be, like let him take me to the ground. But I think that on the feet, it's night and day, Alvarez over Diakese. And even if Diakese does try to grapple with him, I don't think he's going to be out of his element in regards to the submission game of Alvarez. So,
yeah, I mean, we take a look here at the 2 wins that Diakese did get with his, Borshev, who has been proven to be one of the worst at takedown defense, and then Demir, he hits that one, but I mean, Alvarez, man, he was on a 14-1 run. His one loss was to Demir Ismagulov.
exactly.
Okay, that's
It
his
is.
one loss.
Wasn't that his debut or
here, let me look it up here. But then, so then he loses to Sarukian. It's like, okay, that's your losses. Now you're going up against. Now you're going
his debut was against Demir
Ismagulov. His UFC debut.
Right. We'll give you that one.
Welcome to the party. His finish against Thiago Moises was absolutely insane. Did not see that one coming. It was very, very impressive. I'm with you. The other thing I was at is Diakese, on those 2 wins, he took guys down and he just laid on him. He did nothing. Nothing. So even if Diakese does take Alvarez down, Alvarez is in absolutely no danger of what happened to him against Sarukian. Like Diakese isn't going to have those insane elbows that, knock him out. So Alvarez right now, when I wrote the article for WagerTalk.com, it was minus 145. It's on the move. It's all the way up to minus 155, minus 160. I love this below minus 200. I think Alvarez rolls in this one. I think you and I are pretty aligned on that one. As I'm with you, man. The fight IQ, we've just seen it over and over again. Fighters with bad fight IQ. It's just it's too hard to win in the UFC when you don't have the fight IQ, because most likely your opponent's going to have good fight IQ or a better corner, and you're fighting an uphill battle. So
yeah, and I even think if Marc does get it to the ground in this day and age with all the different, how they really are trying to score. Like if you're not doing anything, if you're wet blanketing where you've got control, like they're not going to give you much. And then every round's going to have to start on the feet. And then also Alvarez is highly active off his back. I mean, it's not like he's going to be like, he's going to be hunting for submissions. He's going to be throwing those elbows or like, palm strikes against the side of the head. He's going to, be doing something. And that's if Marc Diakese decides to implement that strategy, which who knows?
Right. But yeah, I know the strike against Michael Johnson. And my favorite part about that was when he was stunned that he lost. Diakese, he couldn't believe it. He was like, what? I thought where I stood there and did nothing was going to get me over the top.
That's pretty bad.
All right, we're taking a look at Danny Roberts and Johnny Parsons. Nathan, I feel confident in saying this was the least amount of fun I've had looking up fighters. I'll just make this one quick. This is also going to be in my to start round 2. I don't find either of these fighters exciting or entertaining. They're tough. I think it's just going to be a slugfest that's not really high quality, but because they're both kind of sloppy and because they're both really tough, I think this one starts round 2. I cannot pick a winner in this one, so I'll just take a little bit on this to start round 2. Did you find anything interesting about this fight?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, I dug deep into the Parsons side of things, right? Like, hey, why has it been? Because I went back and watched his fights, and I'm like, he has got like a very strong Muay Thai background. Like his leg kicks are I mean, the way he whips those out there to the body and to the low legs, I mean, they are destructive. And he loves to brawl. So he can be an exciting fighter. I was just like, what happened? Where has he been? I guess the whole issue is that he had like concussion issues. Like something about that he was training, he was constantly getting headaches. They did some scans, found out that he actually had some concussions. So it took him quite a while to feel right. I think it was like not until the latter half of 2022 is when they were like, okay, you're good to go. And then he was able to kind of work himself back into things. Yeah, I do think that he's going to be the better striker. I think Danny's going to be the better boxer. He's got a good double jab. He's terrible off his back, but I don't see this fight really going to the ground. He does have good footwork, Danny Roberts, and he's going to have a 4-inch height and a 5-inch reach advantage. He I mean, he lost to JDM, got KO hard the first, and Trinaldo, who got, rocked several times. So to me, this is just kind of like a pass fight. It'll be exciting. It's a popcorn fight. Take a shot, have a good time. But
Yeah.
I don't know. You don't know what you're going to get.
No. Yeah, it's pass. I don't know. Do you agree that it starts round 2? Or does this one make you a little nervous?
I think it starts round 2. I definitely for the pure fact that Parsons is durable, he is tough, and that he hasn't fought in so long that he is going to be nervous as hell fighting from Contender Series all the way to a live UK crowd
in 2021.
And the other thing that scares me is that he's going to have his wife in his corner. That is never a good thing.
Worked well for Mike.
Never a good thing. So, because I was really like, I was like, oh, Parsons. But then, I heard that and I was like, ah, shit. So anyway, yeah, I think it starts round 2 because he is going to be way too nervous. There's going to be some rust. And Danny Roberts, after being KO'd twice, being KO'd by
Jack and getting rocked by Trinaldo.
And then, I think he's going to be a little tentative as well. So starting round 2, I think is a great bet.
Davey Grant and Daniel Marcos. I'll let you go first on this one. What do you got, Davey Grant, Daniel Marcos?
Well, let's see here. Davey Grant. Let me pull this up. They're both surprisingly going to be the same height and reach. Davey Grant's going to have a 1-inch height advantage. Davey Grant has been around for a minute. He's getting up there in age at 37 years old. Switch stance, creative striker, front kicks up the middle. Does have some good submissions. Got the oblique kicks, which Bones Jones tends to throw. Does have good solid cardio. And then you got Daniel Marcos, who we got the upset on in Dana White Contender Series because we bet against this man who hadn't fought in 2 years, and you can't get tape. And then all of a sudden he shows up and puts on a clinic. And then, dude, absolutely looked amazing. And then even in his fight after that against Simon Oliveira, who isn't the greatest, but the way that he was able to get him out of there and those knees to the body were just brutal. I think he's got great boxing. I think he utilizes his leg kicks very well. Good front kicks to the face and the body to reestablish that distance. He's got good fight IQ, and he paces himself well. Even when he has the opponent hurt, he doesn't kind of bum rush in, do an adrenaline dump. He just kind of lets things flow and come to him. He knows when to close distance and circle out of the way, makes his opponents chase him, and got a solid takedown defense. I thought we were going to get plus money on him.
On Marcos?
On Marcos. But he opened as a favorite, and I think it's even climbing that way, and I still like him. I know Davey Grant is a dog, and he's going to go out there and put on a show, but I think that just the level of striking that Marcos is going to bring to the game is going to be too much, especially like when you saw it against Adrian Yanez. Similar. Adrian Yanez is a lot smaller. He's a more high volume striker than say Marcos, but it's similar in styles with the leg kicks, with the just kind of like playing it safe and being just more of a consummate boxer striker, which I think is going to be Marc's path to victory.
Yeah, I my big takeaway was you basically got the very well-rounded game of Davey Grant versus the explosiveness of Marcos. Like Marcos, love his kicks, love his knees. I think he's going to work leg kicks early and often. I do kind of think this fight could go over. Because you said
Yeah.
Grant
No.
is a dog. Marcos, he throws really hard, but what is his last like 5 or 6 fights have gotten out of the first round, and
Mhm.
Grant.
He's patient. He's like I'm 100% with you, man. I think it definitely goes to the second.
Hey guys, sorry, there's probably a little glitch. My power went out right as we were wrapping up Daniel Marcos and Davey Grant. So splice this together. Not a great transition. What are you gonna do? We're moving on to Lerone Murphy and Josh Culibao. Murphy is minus 155. Josh is plus 130. I'll go first, Nathan, because I got to tell you, I think the value's in the dog here. Plus 130 is very, very tempting because I think it's really, really close. And I actually think the line is going to move more towards Josh. Murphy, I don't know, man. Razor close split decision win against Gabriel Santos. Edwards looked pretty tired in the third round. And it's weird. I feel like Murphy's level of competition has actually gotten worse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, beats Amir Khani. I'm not very high on. Gabriel Santos is now 0-2 in the UFC. And before that, he did beat Douglas Silva de Andrade and, Ricardo Ramos. I thought he looked better a few fights ago. I feel like he's not he's definitely not getting better. I can make the case that he's kind of getting worse. Well-rounded, good striking, good takedowns of his opponents, leaves himself open. But I know Culibao's last loss is a little controversial because, I think he was losing, pulls off the crazy, submission. But listen, on paper, Culibao's only loss right now is to Jalen Turner.
Yes.
So I don't know if I'm going to get to the window on this, but I think Murphy as a minus favorite is a mistake. So if I'm betting this fight, it's going to be Culibao, but I got to say, man, I love this fight to start round 2. I love this fight to start round 2. They're even 3 out of 4 UFC fights for Murphy have started round 2. All 4 of Josh Culibao's UFC fights have started round 2. That's how I want to attack this one. But in no world do I have Murphy as a big favorite in this one.
No, I'm in agreement. I mean, Culibao is the constant underdog in all of his fights, and he finds a way to win. I love his fight IQ. He keeps getting better and better. He's got great takedown defense. He's going to have pretty much, just like a barely, they pretty much got the same reach, 73.5 to 73 inches. The height, actually, Culibao is going to be a little bit taller just by an inch, but I think he's also fought the better competition.
Agreed.
I mean, if you go back and look, and he just keeps pulling it out. I mean, the fight against Melsik, he was showing, he was able to, I guess, make it competitive in a stand-up match against somebody with the striking skills of Melsik, which is pretty impressive. He was losing the slip up. The fact that he was able to jump knowing that he was behind and get the submission just shows a level of fight IQ that's rarely seen. Taking advantage of an opportunity like that and capitalizing. His fight with Sung Woo Choi was absolutely insane. If it wasn't for Sung Woo Choi's chin, I mean, that would have been over in the first. That was they could have stopped it, and we all would have been like, "Yep, that sounds about right." But they just kept going, and it went to a decision. He won it decisively, or I think, split decision because he did slow down a little bit in the third round. Nuri and Becky, won unanimous decision against him. And it wasn't for the Jalen Turner in his debut is the only
right.
What
kind of debut is Jalen Turner for you?
One you're gonna lose, one you're gonna lose. And so Lerone Murphy's 12-0-1, and you got Josh Culibao is 11-1-1. So I think, and nothing to Lerone Murphy. I mean, he's switched stances. He's always relaxed, regardless of whatever trouble he gets into the fight. Very good straightforward, very good straight jab followed by a hook. He's got great, good get up game. He's got a good pace, solid, body lock takedowns, a little seat belt where he kind of like holds the back and gets him to the ground. Power in his hands, and they've given him of late some insane grapplers. So this will be an interesting fight because they're actually giving somebody who's going to stand and bang with them. And I'm in agreement, man. I think it's a very, very close fight. I do like the underdog money on Joshua. And I think that, honestly, I think it's going to go the other way. Once the UK market gets a hold of Lerone Murphy, since he is going to be the hometown favorite, I think we're going to see even a bigger jump.
Wow.
going Lerone Murphy's way. And I'm all for it. I do think that the fight definitely starts round 2, probably goes to a decision. I just like the improvements that you constantly see from Culibao, the step up in competitions on a consistent basis. And like you said, Lerone Murphy, it seems like he just gets steps down in competition and going to decision, making it split. I don't know. I think it'll be a great fight. It really will. If Joshua can pull this off against the undefeated Lerone Murphy, that's really going to start push him into like, I'm going to take on somebody in the top 15, that sort of situation.
It's just strange for Murphy. I mean, when do you see like, okay, beats Ricardo Ramos, okay, great, and then Douglas Silva, Dan, those are really good wins. And then he faces Amirkhani and Gabriel Santos. I don't. It just feels like a weird trajectory of opponents, right?
Yeah, I mean, Makhmud, I'm not I mean, you know me, I've never really been a fan of Makhmud. He's got like 1 round gas tank, good grappling, but that's about it. If you've got defense and can hold off submissions, like it's pretty much in the bag after the first round. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I like Culibao here.
Well, at the end here, we're going to build our to start round 2 parlay because we nailed the fights to not go the distance parlay last week. Unfortunately, the Walt Harris fight got canceled. It's going to be rebooked, but the Azaitar didn't go the distance. That was an easy one. Terrence McKinney didn't go the distance. So I feel like we've been doing pretty good on these distance fights. So
agreed.
Lerone Murphy and Josh Culibao. Moving on to Jai Herbert and Fariz Ziam. I'll let you go first on this one, Nathan. What do you think about this fight?
You know what? It's close. There's a lot of close fights on this card, man. A lot of coin flips. I thought that, to be honest, I was shocked that Ziam is the favorite.
Yeah, it's really, and by favorite, it's really close. It's
it's really close. But I was, what I mean is, I was hoping to get dog money on Ziam. These guys are almost mirror images of each other. Physically, they match up very, very well. They're both low volume. And that's the thing that's going to suck about this fight is that the fact that they both like to get up against the cage. They both like to kind of throw the knees, throw the elbows in distance. It's just like a one pot shot here and there, a couple of calf kicks. They're just really, playing with the distance of each other's opponents. Now, here's the thing that I'm leaning towards Ziam is that I love the improvements that he was able to make from his fight in which he lost to Terrence McKinney and getting choked out. Within 7 months, he became, his wrestling improved significantly, which was, like you love to see that from anybody like that's able to make that amount of improvement. Who was it against? Oh yeah. Against Figlak, who he was the underdog in, and then went out there and just put on a great performance and just like, what? Like this tall kickboxing striker guy is now like taking people to the ground, holding him there, getting reversals, taking control time. And if he's able to do that within 7 months, like imagine what improvements he's made with the 10 months that he's taken off. Because, I mean, we've got a 26-year-old against, I think he's 25 or 35-year-old in
he's 35
in Jai Herbert. So that's right. They're pretty much the exact same fighter, but I just think the improvements of we kind of have seen what we're going to get out of Jai Herbert. I do love his ability to kind of like in the later rounds he can pick it up a little bit. He is too much of a slow starter, again low volume. So that's why I'm going to go with Ziam here. And I think if he implements the wrestling as well as the striking game, I think he can definitely pull out the win.
There's no way we're going to get to the window on you and I are not going to get to the window in agreement. I lean Herbert. Only lost 4 fights in his pro career, all by finish. Last loss was Topuria. Not a bad loss.
Yeah, I mean, he got wrecked in that. Yeah, that was
he did get wrecked. It was bad. I agree with you. Ziam surprised us all. I mean, he had to win that fight. It was like no, Ziam, you have to absolutely win this fight. He went out and did the job. I just think the step up from Figlak to Herbert is massive. I did the thing where I put Herbert's last fight in a website. and then I put it right next to the
Side by
last one
side.
so I can watch them side by side. And I got to tell you, Herbert looks way faster. I
Mm.
think I think you hit the nail on the head. They are mirror images physically. When they stand toe to toe, it's like, okay, they both got these long legs, they both got these long arms. Their torsos are kind of, shorter and everything. I think Herbert's just a little bit better everywhere. I think he's got a more balanced attack of striking. I think he's going to work a takedown every once in a while. That's going to be interesting because you like the improvements that Ziama's made. I kind of like the veteran in Herbert here. So it's so close. It's a coin flip that, listen, we're here to like make profits. So there's no reason to force a bet on a fight like this. So it's just kind of one of those fights where it's great matchmaking. We've seen it up and down this card where a lot of coin flip fights. So you don't need to bet every fight. You only need to bet a couple of them to make a profit. I even don't even like this one to start round 2 because Jai Herbert's fights can be over really, really quick. So I find no value in it. It's probably going to be a close fight. I fear it may be a boring fight.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any value in betting on it. So Jai Herbert, you lean Zaim. I don't know. Maybe you and I have a little friendly wager. Go
I would love if Ziab was if he was the underdog, I'd be much more inclined. The fact that he's the favorite or turned the favorite, I don't like that. I like getting him at underdog money, but the fact that the market's seeing what I see in some areas, then that's why I'm kind of like, stay off it. It's it should be fun to watch.
Andre Muniz versus Paul Craig. I will go first.
Yep.
I'm planting my flag. I'm putting my foot down that the Paul Craig experiment is just kind of over. He's just too predictable and so one-dimensional that nobody falls for it anymore. I believe he's moving down a weight division. So I think the general consensus is and I did this when I first looked at it, I was like, grappling match, Muniz, Craig, grappling. Then you go back and you look at Muniz, his last fight against Brendan Allen. That was a stand-up fight. And Muniz was winning the stand-up battle. Like, he was absolutely winning the striking battle. Gets into round 3. Brendan Allen catches a pretty weak kick because Muniz was tired, gets on the ground. He gets a submission. Like, within 30 seconds of the fight going over, Muniz probably is having nightmares about losing that fight because I think he was doing more damage, and I think he was ahead. So I'm just boiling this fight down to this. Paul Craig is not going to compete on the feet like Brendan Allen did against Muniz, and Muniz is absolutely bar. He's not going to put his neck into a position of a triangle. And if Paul Craig doesn't have those opportunities, I think he's kind of worthless. I think Johnny Walker and Ozdemir, the last 2 fights, that's the recipe, which is just stay away from the Paul Craig danger zones at all costs. There's no reason to put your arm in there. There's no reason to put your neck in there. And if you don't, Paul Craig is rendered kind of useless. Right now it's Muniz minus 200, Paul Craig's plus 160. I just think Paul Craig and that whole thing is done. It's pretty crazy that Paul Craig technically has a win over Jamal Hill, who now had to vacate the belt because he, tore his Achilles and everything. I don't know. I think it's Muniz. I don't think it's close. And honestly, the last 2 Paul Craig fights, he's looked terrible.
I'm in agreement.
Awful.
I mean, it's like, and especially him dropping down from, 205 down to 185. I don't even know if this fight happens.
That's a great point.
He's had such a hard time even making the 205 to the fact that he's going to have to drop 15 more pounds. Like, that's where I'm in concern. And the only thing I can see is like Paul Craig somehow gets under the skin of Andre and is like, I can beat you on the ground. You ain't nothing, blah, 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 blah. And then the testosterone.
A bunch of shit talking.
And Andre's like, all right, let's go.
Meet me on the mat, Andre.
It's just a grapple fest. And then it becomes an even playing field. But you're right. Andre has improved his striking. He was just specifically almost like a Paul Craig, like get it to the ground, the game's over. But knowing that, the takedown defense of the people are getting better and better. I don't like the fact that he wasn't able to submit Uriah Hall. I'm not that big a fan of Uriah Hall, and the fact that Uriah Hall was able to kind of defend the submissions the entire fight, even though, it was a unanimous decision. But his 1-2 is very good. He's got solid power in his hook. And if he could just do that the entire fight, it's going to be easy money. And just steer clear of the ground game of Paul Craig, and that's your path to victory. And that's it. And then Paul Craig's kind of, I don't know what he does.
If he loses when he's on a 3-fight losing streak and a bad one, like if he gets exposed where like this guy has nothing on the feet.
Once you get to a level, I mean, the fact that he beat Jamal, that was way back. That was, a while ago. But once you get to a level and people know how to beat this, it's just like Puelles, right? Like once you just don't go to the ground, and it's pretty. Or even Gracie Crom when he came back, and it was like everyone was like, he might do it.
Great comparison.
He might do it, and then you just sit there and he's butt scooting the entire time, and it's just it's like, no, I'm not gonna play your game. So if Andre's got a modicum of fight IQ, this should be an easy win for the guy. Let's go, Andre.
I'm with you. The Moonies versus Uriah Hall. That I kind of equate that to. You remember when Miranda Maverick couldn't submit Shanna Young, and it was just like Young was just like, I'm gonna lose, but you're not submitting me.
Yeah,
because
Tucker Lutz against
Moonies didn't submit Uriah Hall, but he dominated. Just absolutely dominate him. And it was like Uriah Hall was okay with getting beat, but he's like, you're not going to submit me. I'm just going to sit here and do that one. Nathaniel Wood, Andre Feely. Nathan, do you hear that? Do you hear that? That's a Nathaniel Wood leg kick to Feely.
Yes.
That's another one. That's another one. And Feely's got those pencil thin legs. I have Nathaniel Wood in this one. The leg kicks alone, I think, are going to soften up Feely's offense. Feely's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Both of his wins were split decisions. Last fight where he won the split against Bill Algeo broke his arm. Could not do any damage whatsoever.
About that,
yeah. So it goes down as a win for Feely, but look it up. Algeo ended that fight with a broken arm. So before that, he lost to Brito, Bryce Mitchell, Youssef. It's weird. He had a win against Charles Jourdain, and so does Nathaniel Wood. I think Wood has got some of the best leg kicks in the UFC, pound for pound. Uses them brutally. And then his last fight, he took shots, but he rolls the shots so good that he doesn't look like he's damaged at all. Cardio is okay. One thing that I think you're going to see happen is his leg kicks are so hard that he kicks him and it takes the legs out from his opponent and he jumps on top. It looks like a takedown, but it's a leg kick takedown. I think
it's a heavy, hard trip. He's very good at the peekaboo leg kick trips. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so I just think Feely's on the downside of his career. I think he takes a loss in this one. I have Wood minus 200. I actually think it's a fair price. I actually think it might be a little bit of a bargain. I know you're on board with me on this one.
Oh, no, totally. I mean, people are going to look at me like, oh, he's got a 5-inch height advantage, a 5-inch reach advantage. I mean, here's the thing, though. Andre Feely's been in the UFC for 10 years. His first fight was 2013. So he's been in there for a while. I mean, he's kind of imposing. He's tall. He's long. The only thing, and he looks great in the first round. But he does tend to gas, as he did in the Algeo fight. And I totally forgot that he broke. I mean, I just watched that, did some tape study today on it, and forgot that he broke his arm. And he still made it look competitive, made it look close. And part of me thinks that he actually won the fight, especially when he was on his back, or when Feely had him, like on the ground in the third round. And Algeo is just rocking him with these, overhand strikes
with his arm that wasn't broke.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think that even though the height discrepancy, Nathaniel Wood is scrappy. He's got great power, great hands. I said great trips, can make it dirty boxing up against the cage and in the clinch. And then on one top, he shows good control. He shows good ground and pound. He like keeps his opponents where he wants them. And I do think that he's got the better cardio of the two. So in all the areas, I think that Nathaniel like checks these boxes, and I think it'll be an awesome, it's an awesome matchup for him. It's going to be a great showcase, especially there in the UK. So
agreed completely.
Mhm.
I think so. Now we're kind of now into the card where, well, give your thoughts what you were saying about the undercards versus the main card for the UK fighters. Tell them that.
Yeah, well, I think that the prelims and the other card, you're going to see a lot of. I feel that the matches are a lot closer, and there could be a few upsets for the UK fighters. If you're from the UK or from the Ireland or that area, the United Kingdom, there's a much bigger chance of the upset on the prelims. Now, the main event, I feel like the UKs are going to roll. I mean, you've got Nathaniel Wood, you've got Molly McCann, you got Tom Aspinall. It all seem like layups, kind of get right fights for the UK so that they can go out with a bang and their crowd, they continue to promote and build that audience.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, giving Diakese to Alvarez, that's not exactly a, a gift there.
Yeah.
I mean, I I'm going to use this horrible comparison. You're going to hate me for this. You know who Mick Parkin reminds me of? Shannon Ross.
Mm.
Gets the fight because it's, remember, Shannon Ross like has a horrible Contender Series appearance. Gets the fight because of it's in Australia. Gets murdered.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then comes back like Mick Parkin. I don't know. Does Mick Parkin get a fight if this is in Vegas? Probably not.
No. Yeah.
Probably
Probably.
not. So I'm with you on that. I think Nathaniel Wood, it's a showcase fight for him. Molly McCann and Julia Stoliarenko. Listen. You've got a puncher in Molly McCann, and you got a punching bag in Stoliarenko. I mean, listen, it's just submission or bust. 1-4 in
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
UFC, and she's been bust a lot more often than not. So she's going to want to get the fight to the ground. I will give her this. Molly McCann's horrific on the ground, like
Yeah.
terrible. If it does get on the ground and Stoliarenko can somehow keep her down there, she absolutely could win by submission. I just don't think it gets there. I like Meatball in this one. -350 is a little steep. I actually don't want to put her in a parlay because I'm just a little worried about what happens if it gets on the ground. But if you are betting Molly McCann, I would just take her by KO because that's what happens to Stoliarenko. Chelsea Chandler turned her into her mincemeat in the last fight. So I think there's no reason to actually bet Molly McCann. If you like McCann to win, just better by KO, because once Stoliarenko doesn't have the submission, it's over for her.
Yeah, totally. This is a get right fight for Molly. I mean, it was way too much too soon in her last fight.
Seriously,
I
that
mean,
was a terrible step up, and
and I
that was
can't.
bad.
Yeah,
Hannah
people were just
Goldie to
like,
Blanchfield.
maybe. Yeah, that's pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. So, but I think it's also they were able to really skyrocket Blanchfield by taking the heat away from Molly, because she's been fighting in the UK over and over again, and she's been doing well. They've been setting her up, and the audience seem they absolutely love her. So she is a star in that regard. But I do think that she needs to get a lot better before she's at a certain level. She's that brawling style, get up against cage. She has like some serious power in her hands. And as long as she can, stay off the ground, it's her fight to lose. I don't like the odds because, it is women's MMA and weird things happen. And, if for whatever reason, Molly gets a little too, big for her britches and says, hey, I'm going to try to ground and pound this girl. There could be a fluke, armbar throw up submission, and we've seen it happen in the past. And at -350, this is like the bed shitter, right? The crapping in
Yeah.
somebody's apple pie. Could see that going the wrong way. But for the most part, it's a showcase fight for Molly McCann, and as long as she keeps it on the feet, it's going to be hers to lose.
All right, we're getting into the main event. All of our plays to be found at WagerTalk.com. UFC plays, MLB, It's a huge week for us for the Open Championship for golf. So we're having a really, really solid year. We're up over 75 units in all sports for the year. So check us out on WagerTalk.com. And let's get into the main event. I'm going to let you go first because I have a little. I'm not all in on Aspinall in this.
Whatever.
Okay. Well, let me go first.
Okay, you go first.
The knee injury doesn't worry me. It's a meniscus. That's a it's a pretty quick clean. It's not an ACL. It's not a patella or anything. Like you get that fixed. So I'm actually not too worried about his knee. What I am worried about is after a knee surgery, you can be cautious, and you should be cautious. Your knee is just a little bit different, and Tybura is tough, man. This guy, he's no pushover. Would this surprise you, Nathan? Like, look at this guy's record. He's 7-1 in his last 8 fights, with his one loss being to Volkov, which isn't terrible. So I have Aspinall is minus 450. On paper, he should win. I think he can. I think Aspinall is going to be a little bit cautious. I don't think he's going to go all in and go for the big explosive strikes or the takedowns. And Tybura has decent cardio. It's not the best, but I don't know with Aspinall, if this gets to round 3, I'm a little worried if I'm holding an Aspinall ticket. I know Aspinall's better everywhere. On paper, no question. Athletic, strikes, all that. But Alexander Romanov learned a valuable lesson against him. Ivanov, got beat because Tybura just weathered the storm. Doesn't do anything great, but he's super tough. Got great cardio, and I think if this fight gets into round 3, and I'm holding a Tom Aspinall ticket, I'm a little bit nervous. So, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know if it goes. I don't think it goes round 3. I mean, even if it does, even if you are, let's say, worst case scenario, he is tentative about the knee, about coming back, about the ring rust. Word has it that he was doing squats or whatever. I think it was like 3 weeks after it was, people were just super whatever, right? Like, his road to recovery was a lot sooner than people had projected. So I think the injury is totally fine. What I like about Aspinall is the boxing, is the fact that he's going to be able to, both have the same reach, but I think it's night and day in regard to the striking of Aspinall versus the striking of Tybura. And look at, I know he's been on I know he's been on a relatively strong win streak, but it's just the people that he's fought. I think Aspinall beats the living shit out of, like he beat out, he submitted
Greg Hardy.
Yeah. He submitted Volkanovski, who you're not supposed to. Like, so Volkanovski is someone who you don't want to go to the ground with, supposedly. I mean, he's got the jiu-jitsu game. He's got the grappling. He's got the striking. I think he's the contender for the next, someone who can actually compete with Bones Jones for the belt. And I think this is going to be a showcase fight to put him right back at that, that projection where he was outside of the fluke knee injury. I think anywhere that it goes, I think that he's got the advantage. Tybura is tough, but I don't think he's been hit in the way that he's going to get hit. Or even if it goes to the ground, the submission game of Aspinall is levels above anybody that he's had to go up against. Like Volkanovski is just going to sit there
Alexander
Volkov. My bad. Romanov was the Romanov gas in the first. That was a thing where that was,
By the way, it was a bad decision too. Like that was draw or
that was sorry, my bad. I was thinking
Tybura beating Romanov was not. I didn't think it was right. I thought
it should have been. I thought it was a tie for sure.
Yes,
it should have been a draw.
But he's tough, and I know what you're saying about the boxing. You're absolutely right. I look at this and I'm going, man, minus 450, a guy off of a knee surgery. Does he have ring rust? Is he just a little bit tentative against a guy that's really tough. I actually kind of like this one to start round 2. Even though Aspinall fights kind of end early. Dude, Tybura's a dog, man. He's tough.
Yeah, it's
tough.
So for me, we typically stay away from like some of the main events just because of the banana peel aspects. I mean, the last time that we did something big on a main event was a Tom Aspinall, and it was like, oh, it was a co-main event. Then it got bumped up, so we're like, oh, we're fine. We can do Aspinall. Then it got bumped up to a main event. We're like, do we still? This is getting iffy. And they were like, no, it's Aspinall. He's going to do it. And then he just, blows out his knee. So I think he will be tentative coming out there. I mean, one would think, being this far off and having the surgery. So, and Tybura being as tough as he is, it probably does go to round 2, unless it's a situation where, he just rocks him, gets him down, and then gets a rear naked within. Yeah. I guess we've gone both ways. Like he's either going to come out there, guns blazing, reestablishes himself as the next big thing, and just puts Tybura out in the first round, or, it could go a little further than people are expecting. But
yeah, Aspinall's a big favorite for the reason. Obviously they think this is a really nice showcase for Aspinall. So, you got big favorites on Nathaniel Wood, Molly McCann, and Aspinall. I guess the other thing that makes me just a touch worried about that isn't that everybody's parlay right there? Wood, McCann, Aspinall.
Right.
Doesn't that just set up for the big, I'm taking, because what was the last card? The Canadian card. Royal Canadians won. So if people are looking at this and they're going, oh, I know Aspinall. Yeah, he's awesome. Oh, Meatball McMolly. Yeah, absolutely. And then Nathaniel Wood. I feel like it's a pretty natural parlay. More times than not, they don't work out. Do you know what I
that's
mean?
true. But hey, you could get the regression like we did. Well, no, Bueno Silva. She was the underdog. Because last week's card.
Yeah, last
ton
night,
of favorites.
Yeah, and last night it was just like favorites galore. So, so you can get our official plays on Wager Talk. I do want to go through this because last week I was pretty confident, and you were pretty confident in the fights to not go the distance. I think it's the other way. I think it's to start round 2. You got the Vieira and Kianzad. I think that we agree that one's got to be.
Yes, that's
there, right?
round 2 for sure. Yep.
I like Robertson Parsons. I think that's a really good one. I like Murphy and Josh Culibao. And I bet those 3 make a pretty damn good parlay.
I would have to agree with you.
I think they make a pretty good one. So, last thoughts before you get out of here, Nathan. I don't know what's a fight you're pretty confident in. Right? Is Yanal your most confident? Muradov over Barberena.
Man, let me look. Oh, my most it's the main event, but we don't do that's my most.
No, it's not. You're not your main event.
I think the most confident is going to have to be. It's going to sound weird, but it's going to be a toss between the Muradov and the Bannon. I think Bannon.
You love Shauna.
I really love Bannon. I think that for her for the background that she has in striking, and for her ability to absorb the wrestling and grappling in the short amount of time that she has, shows me a level of like improvement that's pretty impressive. It's a fade on Brazil. I think she's pretty bad. I think that she fought an absolute can. And then she got beat by Gomez because she's that bad, not because Gomez is that good, so that's how I feel.
Okay. All right. I would say, man, my most confident, I think it's Alvarez over Diakese. That's a pretty good one, but we'll put our best plays together. They'll be available on Wager Talk. So, thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully we can have yet another proud one. We're coming off a really nice weekend, and if you want to join us on Takedown Live, that's where me and Nathan on our YouTube channel watch the fights live. We give out live wagers, predictions, in-fight wagers. So join us.
It's gonna be an early one. Yeah,
it's an early one. Yeah. So here on the East Coast, Nathan and I are on the East Coast in the U.S. So it's about noon. So 12 o'clock. So adjust accordingly. Man, I love these day cards, though. I got to say, I love it. So much better than watching Holly Holm at 1 a.m. Isn't it?
It
So-
is. It
so-
is.
so-
Ugh.
Thanks, guys. Good luck. Find us on WagerTalk.com. Follow us on Twitter. Good luck. Let's have another winning card.